CrimeChat. We know it's been a minute since our last episode, and we're sorry for being MIA, but things have been a little chaotic lately. But don't worry, the CrimeChat isn't going anywhere. To keep the cases coming, I brought in an amazing guest and new friend, Caryn. Hi, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
How are you? I'm so happy that you're here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here too. This is going to be fun.
So Caryn's joining us for a few case updates and a quick review of some past episodes. We'll get a skinny on some of the latest headlines. Before we jump in, of course, our disclaimer. The following crime chat does contain adult content and descriptions of potentially violent scenarios, so your listener discretion is advised as always. Caryn, are you ready to get into it?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So the first case update we have is on Kouri Richins. You remember seeing that in the news lately?
Yeah, not Mom of the Year.
Nah. We covered this originally in season 2, episode 61, where a Utah mom who wrote a children's book about losing a father that was dedicated to her children while she secretly murdered her husband and the father of her children.
Yeah. And then didn't she go on a morning show and talk
Oh, yeah.
about
The book.
that wasn't very, that was probably not a good choice.
Well, we had been waiting for this trial, and it finally happened in March of this year. An 8-person jury convicted Kouri Richins on all counts, including first-degree aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder for a previous poisoning attempt that happened on Valentine's Day of that year, insurance fraud, and forgery. And she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on May 13th, 2026. The sentencing hearing was deliberately held on May 13th, which would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday.
I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting move there. And I don't know if the prosecution really pushed for that or, for the family or whatever, but I thought that was an interesting touch in this case.
Well, I mean, and especially she'd already been convicted. She was just awaiting sentencing. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not do that? And sentencing, you get victim impact statements, you get other things that are brought forward. How better to honor the victim in this case and the deceased in this case than to do it on what would have been his birthday?
Absolutely. That was probably really good for the family too. Maybe a little catharsis. I mean, nothing's in their life is ever going to be the same again. And just maybe to see some sort of justice dropped on a very, meaningful day, and a day that I know was probably really difficult for them anyway.
Absolutely. By this time, he had been gone for 4 years now. By that time. Next case that I want to update is another biggie, Alex Murdaugh. Natalie and I covered this in our first live that we did. It was our 100th episode in season 3. Now, Alex Murdaugh was arrested for the murders of his wife Maggie and son Paul on July 14, 2022, following a 13-month state investigation.
This is such a soap opera. I mean, every time his name is on the news, there's just something else. But yes.
On March 2nd, 2023, when the jury found him guilty on all counts, but the update is that this ruling was recently overturned.
Yeah. Which I know that's probably a gut punch for the prosecution and probably for a lot of people around your area as well, because I can only imagine how much media coverage, it was receiving locally.
Oh, absolutely.
On top of being like a huge national news item. But and I think the reason why is so frustrating too.
It's one of those things that could have been helped, it could have. Why ruin
You're like, why did you do this? Why?
In case you don't know, chatters, on May 13, 2026, South Carolina Supreme Court unanimously threw out the verdict in Murdaugh's double murder convictions and life sentence for the 2021 killings. The court ruled that Murdaugh was entirely denied his constitutional right to a fair and impartial trial, necessitating a complete retrial because of jury tampering by the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill. Now, according to the state's top court, Hill placed her fingers on the scales of justice during the original trial in 2023 by making improper external comments to the jurors and misleading and influencing a jury by subtly implying that Murdaugh's own testimony could not be trusted.
I'm wondering why she did not recuse herself from that and realize that if you realize that you're truly incapable of being impartial because of some extraordinary circumstance, you should recuse yourself at that point.
The retrial is tentatively scheduled to begin April 5th, 2027, and the location is currently not determined, as this defense team has requested the trial to be moved out of the 14th Circuit. Now, despite the overturned murder convictions, Murdaugh will not be released. He's still serving 40 years of a federal sentence and a concurrent 27-year state sentence after pleading guilty to separate financial crimes involving the theft of roughly $12 million from his clients. He does continue to maintain his innocence regarding the murders. Our last case update isn't specifically a case that we cover, but we've talked about him in our Execution by Firing Squad episode, which was in Season 4, Episode 124, and that is Bryan Kohberger. He was the one that was accused and has since been convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Well, the reason why I'm mentioning this as an update is because over the last couple of years, 5 states, Idaho, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Utah, currently allow execution by firing squad. And we did cover that South Carolina was the first state in 15 years to do a death by firing squad, and that was Brad Sigmund. But I mentioned Kohberger because being tried in Idaho as one of those 5 states that does execution by firing squad, he faced the death penalty in his trial. And Idaho at the time was looking to transition to the firing squad as its primary method of the death penalty. And they did. On July 1st this year, Idaho became the only state in the United States to make this official transition. The Idaho Department of Corrections completed a $1.2 million renovation of the execution chamber and released a 36-page protocol that kind of outlines everything, how they're going to do it, like what the safety of it is, anything and everything to kind of show how this process is going to happen. Now, regarding Kohberger, on July 2nd, 2025, just weeks before his trial was scheduled to begin, he pled guilty for 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary for the 2022 killings of the university students. In exchange for the guilty plea and waiving all of his rights to appeal, prosecutors dropped the death penalty, so he is sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences plus an additional 10 years for the burglary, with no possibility of parole. He did decline to address the court during his sentencing, and he's confined to a maximum security facility just outside of Boise. Well, those are our 3 case updates, and we have just a couple of crazy headlines that I also wanted to make mention. The first one came out June 11th, and the headline is, Human Remains Found in Sleeping Bag in National Park Identified 26 Years Later. Amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they still don't know what happened to this individual, but the case goes, in July of 2000, a researcher stumbled upon a remote backcountry campsite along Soul Duck River drainage area. Inside a tent, there were skeleton remains that were zipped inside of a sleeping bag. In 2024, a forensic anthropologist with the King County Medical Examiner's Office submitted a DNA sample to Othram, a private company specializing in forensic genetic genealogy. And by 2025, the lab mapped out DNA markers that pointed to potential relatives. Investigators contacted family members through multiple states, including Hawaii, and matched their reference DNA. June, last month of this year, the National Park Service announced that the skeletal remains found inside of the sleeping bag 26 years ago in Olympic National Park have been officially identified as Joseph Louis Serrero Jr., a Hawaiian native born in 1960 who was living in Washington when his family had last contacted him in 1998.
So thankful that the family does get some closure. I mean, to the extent at least that, they can grieve properly and that those types of things. But
absolutely,
still to not know what happened to him, to cause this, because that part of it, I think it is a little frustrating.
Well, the next headline is, a woman dies after being thrown from a bridge without a safety cord. This woman, a 21-year-old Brazilian woman named Maria Eduarda Rodrigues de Freitas, she died after an extreme sports instructors threw her from a bridge without a safety cord attached. Yeah, Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number one, I'm not doing this kind of activity to begin with. And like seeing something like this really cements that decision for me. But yeah, and then there's videos that circulated about it.
As they're releasing her and somebody's like, rope! Like,
Yeah.
you forgot the rope!
But
And just to see
it's,
somebody fall like that. Yeah.
yes, how terrifying.
Our third
But
headline is from June 22nd, and it says Supreme Court reinstates murder conviction in the case of Etan Patz, a missing New York City boy. So I want to say when I saw this headline, it was like, I know we've covered this case. Like, I know Natalie talked about it specifically, but you know what? It might have been when we were talking about one of the cases that triggered the Amber Alert system, because Etan was one of the first missing children that was on the milk cartons. Do you remember
mhm.
those? Like the
I
pictures that
do.
were
I
on the
do
milk
remember
cartons?
those.
Yeah. Well, it was a tip that came into police. His name is Pedro Hernandez, and he worked as an 18-year-old stock clerk in a neighborhood convenience store at the time of the disappearance. When he was interrogated, he confessed to luring Etan into the store's basement with the promise of a soda, where he then strangled him and placed his body in a box and left it in a nearby alley.
But when he confessed, I mean, this is years later because he
Right.
confessed in what, 2012?
Right.
So this incident happened in 1979. And then,
Yeah.
we've got a little interest in one suspect. We move on, and then there's just nothing until 2012. And then
Right.
this other guy pops up. Well, first of all, like, was he in custody? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and was he Mirandized properly? Because he
Right.
does confess to this, but he does it before he's been Mirandized. Initially, being where the district court says, "Oh no, you actually either have to let this guy out of jail or retry him,"
Mm-hmm.
because, and it was all centered around proper Miranda, like
Yeah.
jury instruction and
Yeah.
this Miranda element of it too. But then this gets to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court looks at it and is like, "No."
No.
The Supreme Court did their job, which is the
Right.
Supreme Court's job, is to evaluate this versus the
The
Constitution
legality
and
of it. Yeah.
yes, evaluate this particular specific constitutional issue. And
Well,
either
the last headline that we're going to cover, I sent this to you last minute, July 7th, and it reads, Evidence found behind Cracker Barrel helps solve a 1985 cold case murder. On October 17th, 1985, John Warren, a traveling auto parts salesman from Dalton, Georgia, was found dead inside of his room in a Holiday Inn in Middletown, Ohio. His 1985 Oldsmobile and several personal items were stolen. Days later, after the murder, some of Warren's discarded belongings were found behind a Cracker Barrel restaurant in Dalton, Georgia. Weird. And his stolen car was recovered from Redington Beach, Florida. Though detectives pursued leads across the 3 states, there was insufficient evidence to make an arrest.
but in this case, we get a satisfying update because
The
they
the
yeah,
it
that
was
evidence which they
yeah.
preserved, which yay, glad they did that.
Yeah, and that's the big thing in preservation of evidence. For obvious reasons, there's a chain of custody. There's like a reason for those kinds of things. Forensic lab analysis on the items that were preserved from all 3 original crime scenes identified 62-year-old Randy McAllister of Columbus, Ohio, as the primary suspect, alongside an accomplice who has actually since passed away. So June 22nd, he was indicted, and then he
Okay.
was arrested on July 1st. He did plead not guilty, and then he had a formal arraignment on July 7th. He's
That's
got a bond, $500,000, but he's going to remain in custody unless, of course, the bond conditions are met.
that's a pretty violent crime. It
Yeah,
stands to say that maybe that might not have been your first,
right.
and it may not have been your last either. True.
Caryn, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for
You're
joining me
welcome.
today. It's been so great to have you here. And chatters, if you don't remember, don't forget, you can follow us on our socials. Crime Chat with Nat and Kat on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube,
Do
TikTok,
it.
X, Rumble. See what we got going on. You can also subscribe to our Patreon to unlock some of our bonus episodes, bloopers. I think Caryn and I got some good
You should do
bloopers for
it.
this one. Some behind the scenes chaos. When you do subscribe, we'll also send you some free Crime Chat with Nat and Kat merch. And Caryn, I'm going to send you some as well. for
Yay!
joining me today.
It's been really fun, and this was really cool to get to like chat about this with you and talk
We get
about
to
some of
nerd
the
out together.
craziness. We do. We get to learn out about this.
Well, thank you again so much, and we'll have you back. If you want
I
to
would love
pop in
to.
on, on
Yeah.
another episode, we'd love to have you back. And have no fear, chatters. We are still here, and we will see you on the next Crime Chat. Bye. Bye-bye.